And a warm welcome to looking at the ITERS item number 24, which is all about gross motor play in the early years. As you know, ITERS is an international standard that helps you grade and score the environment to see how well you are doing things and where you could make improvements or strive for excellence. So as always, we're going to start this presentation by looking at some general good practice guidelines that I've put together for gross motor play with the early years, 0 to 3s. And then we're going to go through and look at the ITERS rating scales. So inadequate, which you would obviously score a number 1 for. Minimal, which is at number 3, good, which is at number 5, and excellent, which is at number 7. So we'll go through and we will explore all of those indicators. So let's jump right in and look at some good practice guidelines. So here we go, gross motor in the early years. So I say there should be plenty of opportunities to develop gross motor skills outside, as well as the opportunity to do it inside. So that might mean having a range of equipment, having a range of resources, having different sets of toys that can be used to support gross motor, and of course the way that the adults interact with the children in the environment to support the development of gross motor. Balls and push toys can be used inside to develop gross motor skills as well as outside. And I think that quite often in early years provisions, the ride-on toys, cars, bikes, etc., are often only used in the outside, but you can have specific times where you bring those in. So the children also have a chance to use those inside the classroom, and that might mean rearranging furniture, and it could be once a week that you have an indoor ride-on toys session where you roll up the carpet, or you set out an obstacle course inside, or you rearrange part of the classroom for them to be used inside, and that provides a different kind of safety, a different feel for the children, a different emotional space where maybe they feel safer and are more able to explore, and once they're doing it inside, they may be confident enough to then do it outside also. And that's the same with other outside equipment. For example, you can see on this slide a arch, a climbing arch. You would usually find those outside, but for specific times or sessions, you could clear one of the carpets or rugs in your room and bring that inside for a morning or part of a session, and have that as part of the free play or activity centre time spaces that are available in the classroom for the children. And gross motor can be supported during free play and choosing time, as well as planned or adult initiated activities. So think of how you can ensure that gross motor is supported in your group in both of those times, both during free play and planned adult initiated activities. Okay, so they're some of my kind of top tips. And if you're doing those things, then you're already going to be scoring higher on the ITERS rating scale. So let's jump in and let's see what an inadequate environment would look like. What would an inadequate environment in relation to gross motor look like? So there would be no gross motor equipment or materials that are accessible. So for example, no mats or cradle gyms for younger infants, no balls, no push toys, no slides, no ride-on toys for toddlers and 2-year-olds. We would really be expecting to see those kind of things in the provision in order to be scoring higher than inadequate. Okay. So an inadequate setting would also have no appropriate indoor or outdoor space being used by children to freely move. The indoor space might be crowded with furniture that limits free movement, and the toddlers and 2-year-olds wouldn't have enough space to run or use push or pedal toys, or as I call them, ride-on toys, in the setting, either inside or outside. Most of the equipment that is available is not appropriate for the age or ability of the children, or it's in bad condition. For example, slides or climbers and riding toys available to younger children might really only be suitable for older children to use. Balls might be deflated, toys might be broken, there could be nails sticking out of furniture or loose steps on climbing toys. So those things, they would indicate, if you're meeting any of these criteria, that would indicate that your setting is actually coming out as inadequate. Let's go on to the next slide and see what a minimal provision would look like. These are the minimal things that you should be doing in order to achieve a rating of 3 or above. You need to be doing these things plus more to get your 4, 5, 6, and 7s. Okay, so a minimal. There is some indoor space accessible that allows children to move freely. So, for example, young infants can move around on the carpet, older infants can walk, 2-year-olds can, infants can crawl, toddlers can walk around the classroom, etc. It's not too cluttered, and the pathways are clear enough for the children to be able to do that. There is also an appropriate outside space that's being used for gross motor. Let's say a minimum of 20 minutes per session, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. That's really what we're looking for. Gross motor space is separated from space used by older children. So if there is older children that are in the same setting, then there is actually a separate space that is available for the under 3s that is more protected, so they don't get wheeled over or pushed over by older children being in the space outside. And that might be about timings. So it might be that older children use the space at one time and the younger children at a different time. Or there might be physical barricades or fencing or sectioning to section up the space for different aged children. So if that's happening, that's the minimally what should be happening. Okay. Outdoor space has some protection from the weather. So example, a sunshade, cover from the wind, good drainage from the rain, etc. So if those things are in place, then you are meeting the minimal requirements and scoring yourself a number 3. Some appropriate materials and equipment, which is in good condition, are used throughout the day, and none of that material is extremely dangerous. Okay, so if you're meeting those criteria, you are coming out at least a level 3. Let's see what you must be doing to get your level 5. So these things plus more. Let's see what a good provision looks like. So in a good provision, there'll be suitable indoor space, which is accessible for children to move freely. Young infants can move arms, legs, freely roll over. Older infants crawl around and explore, and 2-year-olds can definitely walk, hop, skip, and jump inside without problems. There is an outdoor area that is easily accessed by the children. And again, we would be looking in a good provision at least 30 minutes per session. So we could say 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon, depending on what kind of facility you run and what hours of operations you have. And by easily accessible, we mean that it is only a short walk away for the children. Either the classroom doors open onto the outside area, or it is a short walk within the building without the need to go through other classes. So if you meet that criteria, you are coming out at a number 5. And finally, there are enough appropriate gross motor materials, resources, and equipment accessible for the children, either stationary, i.e. screwed into the floor, that could be a climbing wall or something like that, or portable, to allow the children to be active and involved throughout the day. So we're talking inside and outside. Let's go on to our final slide and see what an excellent provision looks like. Okay, outdoor space is used throughout the session for infants' gross motor, play and development. Materials and equipment are either portable or stationary. They're accessible throughout the entire day, making use of large muscle skills as appropriate to the children, and that would include reaching, kicking, crawling, pushing, walking, balancing, climbing, and ball play. So are those things readily available throughout the day? Is there enough indoor space accessible for the children to move around freely throughout the day? Uncluttered, larger open space areas, clear pathways. Okay, and the outside space has at least 2 different surfaces. That might be grass, outdoor carpet or astroturf, rubber cushioning surface, decking or wooden surfaces, at least 2 or more of those types of surfaces. If you're doing half of these things and you're doing all of the goods and all of the minimals, then you're coming out at a number 6. And if you're doing all of these things and all of the goods and all of the minimums, you're coming out at a number 7. And if you're not quite at a number 7, think about what you can be doing to get yourself there. And this whole deal with ITERS, it's about moving towards excellence. So have a deep, long think about this slide and think about what you can do to really strive for excellence in your gross motor practice.